Maseches Brachos Daf Mem Tes. The Gemara says that Kol Shloi Omer Bris V'Torah Birchas Haaretz Machas Bris Dov Ben Yishlayim Lo Yotzi Dei Chivasoi. It's interesting Machlokes Rishonim when it says Lo Yotzi Dei Chivasoi. What does that mean? Does it mean Lo Yotzi Dei Chivasoi that you're not Yotzi Birchas Hamazon totally, or it just means you're not Yotzi K'Tikunoi? The Miri brings two days. The Torah brings from his brother Bichil that holds you Yotzi, but the Torah says no. Since it's a Deraisa, so therefore, you go l'chumra and you're not yoitza. Beis Yosef asks, what does it mean it's deraisa? Although birchas hamazon is deraisa, but to be maskeh bris v'torah is not deraisa. On that, the Pri Megadim says a very interesting pshat in the Torah that says that bris v'torah is deraisa. He says that there's a yesod mavur and toises in Sukkah Daf Gimel. We spoke about B'siyat Shmaya on Daf Dalid that when Rabbanan are masakin takana in the mitzvah deraisa, if you don't do the prat derabanan, you're not yoytze the mitzvah deraisa. As Tyson Sukkah says, that if you sit in a sukkah that doesn't have the sheer rosh havuv shulchanin that's in derabanan, you're not yoytze even in deraisa. So the Pri Megadim says that if you don't say bris v'torah in birchas hamazon, you're not yoytze in deraisa. Even though the prat of bris v'torah is derabanan, that's ma'akiv the mitzvah mideraisa. It sounds like the Bialacha doesn't go like the Pri Megadim. The Bialacha writes that the Chayodim says that if you have a suffix on bris v'torah, you have to go back because it's deraisa. And the Bialacha says no, Lamaisa. There are many poskim that say it's drabanan. And he says the Bialacha says further that since birchas hamazon is shkura b'fi hakol, you could say that normally when someone's mesupik birchas hamazon, he said it properly. Sirchi noket v'ozil. But upon him, the Bialacha is his understanding that it's a suffix d'Rabbanan, not a suffix d'Oraisa, and like the Pri Megadim, it should be a suffix d'Oraisa. There's another very interesting discussion in the Mefarshim over here. The Sharetzian writes that day you have to go back to the beginning of Birchas Hamazon when you forget bris v'torah is only if you started the next bracha. But if you didn't start the next bracha yet, you could say bris v'torah before the next bracha. The same way we find further on now Gemara that you could say if you forget Yalav Yavoy or you say a bracha before the next bracha. On that, the Imik Bracha writes that it's a tremendous difference from the halacha forgetting Vitzei or Yalav Yavoy, or the Torah writes that even if you forget Mashav Ruach or Moed at all, you could say it in the next bracha, because those are Zaitig Askoris that Chazal will mesakin in the middle of the bracha. So over there you could say it after the bracha. However, bris v'torah is not a side haskara, that's part of the etzem nusach habracha. So if it's part of the etzem nusach habracha, so you don't find that you could say it after you already made a chasima on the bracha, that you could stay that haskara afterwards. The Gemara says further halacha that if someone forgets Yalav Yavoy, or would say he says a bracha before the bracha of Atayva Meitiv, and that the Gemara says that lo shanu that only if you've remembered before you started Atayva Meitiv, but once you started Atayva Meitiv, then Chayzer the Rosh. So on Chayzer the Rosh, there's a machlokes rishonim. The Rambam writes that if once you start Atayva Meitiv, you have to go back to the beginning of Birchas Hamazon, that's Paskin Shulchan Aruch. However, the Ravid says no. The Ravid says, why is it different than someone that's rogel loim atachanunim achat tfilos? So that means in the middle of davening, he forgets a haskara, and he's rogel loim atachanunim. Then he goes back to, let's say, if he forgot the Yalav Yavoy, he goes back to Ritzei. So over here also, if he got the haskara of Yalav Yavoy, so the Ravid says he should go back to the last bracha. Why does he have to go back all the way to the beginning of Birchas Hamazon? So on that, the Rosh says that no, a Yesod, that Birchas Hamazon is all one big bracha. To answer the Shittas HaRambam, the Imik Bracha writes that why is it different that by Birchas Hamazon you don't say that's like they should only have to go back to the last bracha. The Imik Bracha says it's different Tefillah and Birchas Hamazon, because Tefillah you find that there's a concept of Oimel Lifnei HaMelech, like Reb Chaim writes in the Tefillah, that there's a very high level of kavanah you have to have. That you Oimel Lifnei HaMelech, like we spoke about it by Riches and Daf Lamed Beis and Lamed Daled, the B'divrei Imik Bracha. So he says, since you have to be Oimel Lifnei HaMelech, so therefore even if you're Rogel Oimel Tachanunim, you still retain that high level of Oimel Lifnei HaMelech, so therefore you're still a Milah Shemayim Esrei, you could go back to Ritzei. However, by Birchas Hamazon, you don't find such a high level of kavanah, so therefore once you forget, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. A different pshat you could say according to Yesod that we find Rav Pala writes that it's cholok the mitzvah of tefillah from other mitzvahs. Other mitzvahs, Reb Chaim writes in Hilchos Korban Pesach that what makes a mitzvah into a mitzvah is the chiyuv to do a mitzvah is what makes the mitzvah into a mitzvah. So Masha'en came by tefillah, even without a chiyuv miyuchid on this tefillah, it's chal din tefillah. So therefore, if someone's rugaloy matachanunim achat tefillasai, it has a status of part of the actual Shemona Esrei, so therefore you have to go back. However, by Birchas Hamazon, what makes Birchas Hamazon into Birchas Hamazon is the Chiyuv. So the Chiyuv derises the first three brachas. The last bracha is independent bracha midrabanan. It's not part of the original bracha. So therefore, how much you start at Teva Meitiv, it's a new entity, and you have to go back all the way to the beginning.